How many times over the last couple of years has there been like entire news cycles devoted to criticism of a comedian for saying something stupid? The left has to be open to them like not agreeing with us on everything. Like this is I mean, everyone's like, why Joe Rogan? Where's our Joe Rogan? It's like, well, we had Joe Rogan. He was our Joe Rogan, and then everyone said, F you, no, and they made a big fuss out of Bernie Sanders going on his show.
What's going on, guys? So we got to talk about Joe Rogan and the impact on the 2024 election. So he's been getting a lot of hate from the folks on the left for basically contributing towards Donald Trump's victory. Now, in terms of how much he contributed, we shall never know, but we do know that his video on YouTube got millions of views within like the first hour or 2 hours. It was shadow banned because it had so many views on YouTube, so you couldn't even find it at one point. He ended up posting it directly onto the X platform, or a direct link to it on the X platform. He endorsed Donald Trump the day before the election, so I'm sure that it did have at least some level of impact. Now, the left is saying that Joe Rogan should not be trusted, okay, particularly the Cackling Hens on the View, because Joe Rogan believes in dragons, which is one of the stupidest things ever.
This guy, Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. I checked it. He believes in dragons? He believes in dragons.
Did you triple source that?
Yes, I did. And he also thinks that dragons, like, I guess, like dinosaur type of animals, roamed the earth when people did. So this is the type of really, really bad information that's going out there.
So Joe Rogan, of course, clapped back at The View, calling himself a dragon believer. And obviously Joe Rogan doesn't believe in the Game of Thrones style dragons that come and breathe fire, right? But there are different types of lizards, right? There's even technically dragons today. They're called Komodo dragons. They're like a smaller type of lizard, but they're bigger than like a little teeny tiny lizard, like a gecko or something. They're much bigger than that. So it just depends on how you define a dragon. But of course, the Cackling Hens on the View are so out of touch and never speak to anybody. Instead, they just live in their echo chambers and try to dunk on people all day foolishly, that they end up making themselves look stupid each and every single day.
But I think that that's why people like our show, because they know that we are checked by ABC News. But
we're checked by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if we're wrong, we have, the legal note here.
Mm-hmm. Now, further along than that, Joe Rogan took an opportunity to clap back again against Joy Behar in the Cackling Hens on the View, saying that, well, they're afraid they're going to lose their job. Take a look.
Her name is as a news source.
Did you no. This is the most important part.
I don't know.
Hey, this is the most important part. This is right after she was saying, we are run by ABC News. You should trust us, not Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. So she by saying we should trust them because they're double checked by ABC News, and then making the stupidest statement. Like you didn't listen to what I said. Yeah. You didn't listen to what the wildlife biologist, and that's only a part of what he said.
I can't believe
the other
Joy
part of what he
Behar
said was there was something before that where he was explaining encounters with giant reptiles. And there's also, listen,
it doesn't make sense to me that a middle-aged woman could be dumb.
When you're worried about losing your job and you're worried about podcasts taking over and who's the source of news, and we said Donald Trump is Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us and he won, and this is, and Joe Rogan believes in dragons. It's just frantic.
If you ask me, they should be afraid, because I believe Joy Behar's been on The View since like the beginning, if I'm not mistaken. This is like well over 20 years. It's been a long time. It's something like 20 years. I don't remember the exact year, and I'm not going to look it up right this moment, but it's been a very, very long time. She's been on there with Barbara Walters from Jump Street. Now, I want to go ahead and react to a video where these guys are basically saying like, hey, we need a Joe Rogan. And what they're not realizing is that you had a Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was on the left. As a matter of fact, a lot of his views are still on the left. He's not a conservative, guys. These people think anybody who is like right of Bernie Sanders is some sort of MAGA hat wearing conservative, okay? Some sort of alt-right Nazi. And I think that's where the party is losing. Like, they're not understanding that they have lost the plot. They've gone mad. They're embracing too many left-wing progressive weird, like not even the good progressive stuff, like the insane progressive stuff, like some of the weird transgender stuff with the kids, things that even some people in that community don't like, right? Like it's just weird, stupid stuff, open borders, like they suck with the economy and they lie and gaslight. The people that are responsible and in charge these days are not good people. That's why they're losing, in my opinion. Without further ado, let's go ahead and react to this clip on CNN where they're discussing this in greater detail.
There are such people who say that they need a liberal Joe Rogan. What do you think they actually mean when they say that?
Well, I think the short answer is they do need a new Joe Rogan. The question is, what does that look like? And I don't know if it's you can actually create it. You know, apparently a lot of Republicans were creating some of these podcasters and so on. So now the mainstream media has changed quite a bit. And I don't know if it's so much about who the person is or if there is a person. It's where they're getting their message to and how they're getting it out there. Because obviously, as Joe Rogan himself said, everybody's getting their information from their phone. So where are you going to get that now? You can go on X like I do all the time and you get it from all sides there. But I think for the Democrats, they need to find a way to get their message out.
What is it? Is the narrative here? Because I've been hearing this a lot. Is the narrative that they feel like they don't have a big enough voice or something? That doesn't make any sense because they have a bunch of left-wing podcasters already that are extremely popular, not Joe Rogan popular, but very popular. Like if you combine them all together, then you can get, okay, maybe still not Joe Rogan numbers, but you could get great number. There's countless of them that are left-wing, and basically all of the news is to the left with the exception of Fox News in terms of the legacy mainstream media. They're all to the left. So how much more do y'all need? The problem isn't getting the message out. The problem is people don't like the message. It's not that hard to figure out. They're like, can't bring themselves to understand that people don't like what they're hearing.
To the people that they didn't get it out to.
Misha, I see you ready to jump here.
I agree with that. I think it's more an understanding of the new ecosystem, where people are getting their media messages from. We know that a lot of it is digital, it's social media. People aren't picking up the newspaper anymore.
Did, right? They like TikTok their way through the coconut summer. And
yeah, nobody cared about the coconuts. I think that it was a misreading of the electorate, but also a misreading of where people are getting their information. But in addition to that, it is not one person. I think that, you know, Joe Rogan has had more lives than cats. They're getting a lot of information from things that are not, unfortunately, shows like ours right now, that are not shows of the competitors either. You have to find a way to break through that. And I think that for Democrats, largely, their investments have been in ad buys and campaigns that are focused on media that the young people, that diverse voter just aren't in anymore.
I think Democrats need to find a message first. What is their message to voters? That I don't understand. Do they want to be the far left? Do they want to be moderate? Do they want to be, where do they want to land? I mean, it's like, it's so inauthentic to me to hear, like, we need to find our own, how are we going to create somebody out of thin air? First, they need to find a message and figure out who they are, and then figure all that out.
So it wasn't healthcare access, it wasn't housing affordability, it wasn't childcare affordability, it wasn't having, you know, assistance in your home for the, you know, that sandwich generation. None of those things.
This lady's just a propagandist. Here's a problem. The Democrats have been elected numerous times and they don't do good with those things. They talk about it, but they don't be about it. They don't do anything. And a lot of people recognize that. A lot of things that, like she just mentioned, affordability. What's affordable in this economy? If affordability is what you're going off of, then it's a losing battle from the beginning because affordability is at an all-time low. Like, people can't afford hardly anything these days, and it's under Democrat leadership. So if things were led well by Joe Biden, then people would actually believe what you're saying. But when you tell everybody to their face that the economy is good, and then they can't afford to barely pay their rent, and they can barely afford, like, Thanksgiving shopping, they got to use credit cards to do Thanksgiving shopping because they don't have any actual money, and now they're just going into debt so that they could have a good holiday, then yeah, you've lost the plot. It's not about whether or not you can spread the message. It's about your message sucking.
I'm not, look, you guys are the one arguing all the time on TV and on radio and everywhere else that about what the message is. I'm just saying they need to figure out the message. And then,
to be clear, Republicans argue about their message all the time. And I think I grew up with right-wing radio and obviously Rush Limbaugh. There's always been a robust right-wing media ecosystem. And the question I have is, how much of this is actually about audience and what you will allow?
This lady, like, literally just tried to, like, upplay right-wing media and downplay left-wing media. Like, my head freaking almost exploded just then.
Wow. Meaning the campaign didn't let Kamala Harris sit for 3 hours. And I don't think the campaign would have put her in front of Theo Vaughn to talk about his cocaine habit. Like, Democrats have a different sense of, like, what's okay to do.
Okay.
That's actually precisely the point. However, Bernie Sanders had no problem going on Joe Rogan years ago when Joe Rogan endorsed him. I've been on Rogan's show 3 times. I've probably heard over 100 hours of it in the past decade. A decade ago, Joe Rogan was a Bernie Sanders supporter who would get emotional talking about how important it is to legalize marijuana, who would get emotional talking about how important it is to get Christianity out of politics, in particular on the abortion issue, who had a host of left-wing opinions, including about healthcare. And liberals drove him away by calling him a racist, unearthing jokes he made, calling him a misogynist, really with no evidence.
When you make racist
calling him
jokes
a transphobe,
about people of color,
calling him a
people
lot
calling
of
you
comedians
racist is
make
likely going to
jokes all the
happen.
time. Calling him transphobic because he didn't like
He
seeing
also didn't
Fallon
love the
Fox
vaccine thing, right?
beating up.
To our point earlier.
That also used to be a left-wing opinion, to be against vaccines like 20 years ago. Again, so he actually
against mandated vaccines, untested vaccines, the pharmaceutical complex, effectively, right? This is just one big corrupt system between the companies and all of these organizations, FDA, CDC. Like, there's a lot of things that, like, checks and balances that's supposed to be in place to protect, but aren't actually doing that. And yeah, the Democrats did used to be against all of that stuff. So I don't know what the hell this damn party's been hijacked.
Hasn't shapeshifted very much, to your point. The Democratic Party has shapeshifted and driven him away and alienated his followers.
I think what he ended up seeing was an American political sphere that shifted, and he found ways. He's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. He found ways to walk into where those people were. Yes, he was a proud, ultra leftist, and then he became a proud person on the right, largely because he saw shifting towards the right, and that's where his money and his audience could come from. He shifted because more of his listeners shifted, and that's where he drove it to.
These people don't pay attention to anything. Rogan is not on the right. He just isn't. But he knows that the Democrats are lying, like the folks that are in charge, in power. He called out the lies and the BS because nothing they said this election made sense. And a lot of people could easily see through it. If it was back in like Obama times or something, he probably would have been able to beat Trump, because there wasn't nearly as many lies back then. There were some, but this is like a whole new level. I've never seen anything like the whole Biden-Harris administration. This was just a complete disaster, a catastrophe.
That's nothing more than consumerism at work.
Which of his beliefs changed in the past 10 years? It's really hard to point out which of his beliefs.
But can I zoom out from him? Because I think there is this, and I see you nodding as well, this kind of bigger question. Like, you have a Jon Stewart, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have Pod Save America. You have all kinds of
Conan
even
O'Brien,
the late night, television brigade.
They're all left on the late night show.
All of them.
I think what he said to me, what rings true about this whole concept of finding the liberal Joe Rogan is, he said, inauthentic. And when you talked about what Kamala Harris did in this campaign, knocking on doors, doing it sort of the traditional way, right? Raising tons of money. But there's something about Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, or Joe Rogan or whomever, they are authentic.
Right. Totally.
And that comes through to people.
See, these people just don't get it. Also, Donald Trump has, 5 kids, and his kids helped. Remember, Barron Trump's the one who told him to do more podcasts. If Trump didn't have Barron with Melania, you never know. He might have lost the election. And the Kamala Harris just has her stepchildren. And if you take a look at that one person, you can probably tell this probably wasn't a super helpful person in terms of getting more votes. Okay, so Barron seems like he's pretty sharp and up and comer. Okay, you never know. One day you might be talking about another Trump. I already know that there's going to be other Trumps that run for president. Like, I just know it's going to be more of them. I mean, this dude got way too many kids. And then the kids, they're going to got grandkids growing up. There's way too many of them to not be trying to run again. But it seems like these guys just don't get it, guys. I'm loving the fact that they're not getting it. It's annoying as hell, but it's also hilarious and funny because you know that these are some of the same people who the next person running for president is going to be listening to some of these lunatics. These people are stupid. These people are probably getting paid like top dollar to give these stupid takes where they don't have a clue what they're talking about. If people want what you're selling, they'll buy. But you can't say, well, we didn't get a chance to push this message enough. What message do people not understand? You said that you supported great and amazing things and that the economy was great and that legal immigration was not a problem, but it was Donald Trump's problem. If it happened to be a problem, it was Donald Trump's fault. And the economy is great, but any problem with the economy was also Donald Trump's fault because he left a mess. I mean, these people messaging sucked. It's really that simple, guys, but it's hilarious that they just cannot bring themselves to admit it. They just can't do it. It's like they're just like, nah! Like it's like they're gonna lose it. It's like they need therapy to come to grips with reality. They pushed me away. I was on the left. I've said this on the channel many times. I voted for Obama twice. I voted for Hillary and Obama twice. And I didn't vote for Trump until 2020, but I learned my lesson. I was like, it's just not working. These people are lying. I learned my lesson. And I realized like what the hell was going on. But these are people who are much more older and experienced than me. So how the hell do they not understand? I'm so confused, man. But those are just my thoughts, guys. Let me know. Do you guys think that they'll ever figure it out? Like, where are the people with the common sense? They need people with common sense in the party, and then maybe they have a better chance. But as it stands today, I think these people don't really stand a damn. They're probably gonna get some inroads in some revenge votes in 2026. But in 2028, if they stay the course, I think they're gonna get their ass kicked again. But let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Reaction channel. I'm out.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies infested hen house.